Hello there and welcome back to another video. This week is actually my second attempt at trying to record a watercolor speed paint. The first one went wrong for many reasons. First reason was that I forgot to re-hit record in like a middle portion of the painting because I decided to turn off my camera while I was waiting for layers to dry, and then I thought I re-hit record but I didn't. And then the second mess up was that when I was doing line art at the finishing stages, which, by the way, my watercolor pieces all look like absolute rubbish until I actually add outlines to it, and I do outlines last. So the line art part that make the painting look put together, that didn't end up getting recorded because my camera died. So this is my second attempt at recording a watercolor painting. What I decided to do for this one is to leave the camera on 100% of the time and to leave it plugged in throughout the recording process. So in the end, I have 40 gigabytes worth of video, 4 hours-ish worth of footage that we're only seeing 9 minutes of, sped up and all that stuff. But I don't know, a good hour of the 4 hours must have been just drying time and stuff. But so I'm actually doing an illustration of my good friend's character Rose. You might have seen her on my channel before because I did a lot of illustrations of Rose because my friend who owns her wrote a book about her. It's actually a book series, but she's been working on the first novel of the book for I don't know, almost a year now, I feel like. And so she commissioned the cover and some character concepts and stuff like that, and the book is officially released, so you can get if you're in the States, you can get the Kindle version on Amazon, and I'll leave a link in the description. And if you're not in the States like me, I'm in Canada, you can get a PDF download off Etsy, which I'll also leave in the description. It's a really good book, it's really interesting, it's fantasy related, there's a lot of good character depth and all that sort of thing, so please consider buying this book. My friend Leah worked really hard on it, and I love all the characters and the story building and everything to bits. I've been super connected to this entire novel, and I felt really privileged that I got to read drafts of it and stuff. And anyway, if you have $10 to spare, please consider buying this book because it's really good, and you will not regret it if you fantasy or just really good fiction in general. You really won't regret it. You might recognize, if you've seen a bunch of my videos, of the friend that wrote, she goes by Dark Petal 16 online, so she's the author of this book series, and she's a really good author. I really like her writing. It's how we met, and yeah, links in the description. Please take a look at them if you're interested. But moving on to this watercolor painting, so Rose, this is the protagonist of the series. The series is called Magic of Dawn, and the first installment in the series called Dawn of the Rose, and she's a really happy-go-lucky protagonist that is kind of confused about a lot of things, but I don't know, I feel like she's really relatable. And I've drawn Rose a lot because she's the protagonist, but actually every single character in this novel is just amazing. I really like Morton and Nigel and Bacillus, and seriously, please read this book. All the characters are amazing. Leah's such a good author, I can't say it enough. Please read it. But on top of that, I've been trying to get a handle of this watercolor paper. Most of my watercolor illustrations until now have been on cold press paper. The differences between cold press watercolor paper and hot press watercolor paper is that cold press is more like a sponge, it's absorbent, and hot press is more like a film. So water sits on top of hot press watercolor paper. It takes a little bit longer to dry, and you get to move around with the water. I sort of see marker. Oh, this is the first instance of my oopsie counter. We'll get back to that, don't worry, there's plenty. But yeah, so hot press watercolor paper takes longer to dry, so the paint stays wet longer and you can move it around a bit more. I think it's better for wet on wet technique, except I'm not really good at wet on wet technique, so there's a lot of oopsies that are upcoming. I'm really not that, and it also has this really weird effect that I only was able to blend out a little bit more once the layers had dried, so I could go back with a semi-damp brush to blend it a little more, because otherwise I'm not really sure if I'm used to how the water sits on top of the paper and it doesn't just sponge into it and spread itself out. There was the one oopsie that I felt was an oopsie, but I didn't actually turn into an oopsie simply because we get another oopsie right after. Yep, there is. So yeah, I do a lot of oopsies because I'm not really used to working with this hot press paper. This is the second painting I've done on it. First painting was the one that I failed to record, sorry. But this one, alright, where's oopsie? Oh yeah, and under the ear, I kind of lost my place in the painting. But yeah, so I'm not really used to this paper. It's my second time trying to paint with it, and also I'm like really impatient. And because I was like, usually when I do watercolor painting, I'm like doing the watercolor painting on my desk, but I'm also like typically drawing something in Photoshop on the side, like I'm working on two things at the same time, because like I get too impatient and I like just put more paint down before it dries, and then I get instances like this where it all bleeds into each other, and that's not very pleasant. So yeah, I get really frustrated with like my own impatience, and that's like my one big struggle with watercolor, and that's why it took me like eons and eons and eons to get into watercolor painting, just because I get too impatient. I wanted to like dry immediately and put more layers, but it doesn't work that way. The medium doesn't work like that. And with cold press paper, it's like easier because it dries a bit faster, but then also there's another almost oopsie that I don't really consider an oopsie, enough to like in the edit make it an oopsie. But yeah, with it happened a lot more often, and also because I was like having like camera nerves, I wasn't like working on something else in Photoshop at the same time, so I was just like, I don't know, this is a really weird painting process. Alright, oopsie number 5, here we go. There's a lot of oopsies. Usually, I always have oopsies in my watercolor processes, but this one had a lot. I felt like this was a train wreck. Like, I feel like I'm very thankful to Inktober, because Inktober taught me how to like make a finalized illustration with just outlines. So I feel like even at the state that this painting was in at this point, I was able to like bring it together with the outlines just thanks to the 2 Inktovers that I did, because otherwise like this painting would be in the bin and I wouldn't be showing it to anyone. But it ended up looking pretty good actually, and then I'm quite happy with how I managed to like salvage it. And I also shout out to my good friend Fantasy Finder, because I sent her like a bunch of pictures and a bunch of panicked text messages like, how do I fix this, please help. And she gave a good suggestion that I'll mention when we get to it, that really helped bring it together. So yeah, watercolor painting, I'm not the best at it. There's a lot of really experimental stuff. Also, another thing I should mention, this pad of watercolor paper, it's got the like pad adhesive on 2 sides of it, not just like at the top. It's got the adhesive on the top and on the bottom. When I purchased it, I thought it was like, I was looking for a watercolor block that has the adhesive on all 4 sides of the pad of paper. That way like there's less warping, there's less buckling of the paper, I think is the proper term. But because I really like, it's my pet peeve that like the paper gets really warped as you put water on it. Like I really hate that, and I don't have the means to like properly like wet it and stretch it, so typically I just tape it down. But I decided, because I was watching a video that kind of covered this the differences in watercolor papers, I tried to like buy a block, but this only has 2 sides glued down, not all 4, so it didn't end up working how I wanted to. Like the old painting I did, the one that isn't going to see the light of day, that one I accidentally took off the pad and taped it down like I would normally do, and that worked fine. But I decided to try this one leaving it on the pad of paper, and it actually did, because it's only got the adhesive on the 2 sides, and one of the corners ended up lifting up anyway. So like I actually wish I would have taken the paper out and taped it down like I normally would have, because that would have saved me a lot of heartache. And now I'm coming out with an acrylic white ink to add highlights. I would consider the cheeks an oopsie as well, but mostly just, wait for it, oh there it is, oh and it gets worse, oh and it gets a little bit worse, and cleaning up. And about here's where I start the panicking text messages to Fana, and she suggested making her smile an open mouth, like not a closed teeth smile, where like we don't see the inside of the mouth, we just see her teeth smiling. And I tried it out, wait for that to dry, put some more line art on top of it, and it ended up working out a lot better, I think. And yeah, overall like this was a very much of a journey in terms of watercolor painting. Please let me know if you enjoy watercolor painting processes, especially ones that are riddled with mess ups like this. And yeah, please check out Leah's book in the description. It's a really good book, I really recommend it. And let me know what you think. If you want to see more watercolor paintings and all those sort of things, leave a comment, subscribe, and thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next week.